Hey there, future IAS officers. Welcome to another deep dive, tailored for you, UPSC aspirants, burning the midnight oil out there.
Yeah.
Today, we're tackling a topic that's practically guaranteed to pop up in your mains, and probably prelims too, India's Himalayan region.
Right.
Now, it's geographically massive and incredibly important, but did you know the Himalayas hold 10 times more ice than the Alps?
Really?
That's right. They directly impact the monsoon that affects all of India.
Wow.
So get ready to sharpen those pencils, because understanding this region is crucial for your exam prep and for grasping the future of India itself.
It's more than just mountains and glaciers, isn't it? It's intertwined with everything from national security to the environment and cultural identity.
Right.
We're talking about a region facing some serious challenges, but also holding immense potential.
Okay, let's break this down. First, why are the Himalayas so crucial for India? We're not just talking breathtaking landscapes here, are we?
Yeah. Not at all. Think of it as India's natural shield, a formidable barrier along its northern borders. This has huge implications for national security, especially given the situation with China. We've seen increased military presence and infrastructure development with projects like the Atal Tunnel and Zojila Tunnel being constructed at a rapid pace.
That makes sense. Strategically vital.
Yeah.
But our sources also mention the Himalayas as the water tower of India. Now, that sounds like something straight out of a geography textbook. How does that work exactly?
It's a critical concept, especially for your mains exam prep. Think of it this way. The Himalayas are the source of major rivers like the Ganga, Brahmaputra, and Indus. These rivers support millions downstream, providing water for agriculture, drinking, and even hydropower generation. However, here's the catch. Climate change is causing those glaciers to melt at an alarming rate. Experts predict a potential loss of up to 75%, which means millions could face water shortages.
Oh,
That would impact food security and livelihoods across India.
wow, 75%. That's a staggering figure.
Mm.
So it's not just an environmental issue, it's an economic and social one too.
Hmm.
And I'm guessing this ties into the ecological significance as well.
Absolutely. The Himalayas are a biodiversity hotspot, home to over 3,000 rare plant species, some with unique medicinal properties. They're also home to iconic animals like snow leopards and red pandas. This delicate ecosystem is under immense pressure from habitat loss, deforestation, and of course, climate change.
It sounds like this one region encapsulates so many of the major challenges India is facing right now. It's like a crash course in current affairs, all rolled into one mountain range.
And that's precisely why it's such a crucial topic for UPSC aspirants. You need to understand these nuances. The interplay between development and conservation, security and sustainability is all connected.
Right, and it's not just about ticking boxes on an exam paper, is it?
Yeah.
Understanding this region could literally shape the way you approach policymaking if you do make it to the IAS.
Exactly. The Himalayas are a microcosm of the larger challenges facing our planet. If we can find solutions here in this challenging and awe-inspiring environment, then there's hope for us all.
Right, we've covered the strategic importance, the water tower concept, the ecological significance. There's another dimension, right? Our sources mention the cultural and religious significance too. Can you unpack that for us?
For centuries, the Himalayas have been a place of pilgrimage, drawing millions to sacred sites like Kedarnath and Badrinath. However, even this aspect faces challenges from unregulated tourism and inadequate waste management. Ironically, this influx of devotees is damaging the very places they revere.
It's a classic case of loving something to death, isn't it? We
Yeah.
see that in so many aspects of life, not just in the Himalayas.
Right.
So we've got strategic importance, water resources, ecological significance, cultural heritage, all packed into this incredible region. What stands out to you as particularly significant in all of this?
What I find fascinating is the sheer interconnectedness of it all. These aren't isolated issues, they're all intertwined. Strategic considerations influence development decisions, which impact the environment and in turn affect the livelihoods of the people living there. It's a complex web, and any solution must consider all these factors. This kind of holistic thinking is exactly what UPSC examiners look for in your answers, so remember that.
So it's not enough to simply list out the challenges or the solutions. We need to demonstrate that we understand the bigger picture, how these issues are all linked together. That's a valuable takeaway right there for our listeners.
Yeah.
All right, we've established that the Himalayas are really important and facing some serious pressure points, but we don't want to leave you all feeling doom and gloom.
Right.
So let's move on to the challenges themselves, which I think will be particularly useful for those mains answer writing sessions. What are the biggest threats this region is facing right now?
The most immediate and visible threat is the increasing frequency of climate-induced disasters. We're seeing a surge in avalanches, landslides, and flash floods, all driven by rising temperatures and unpredictable weather patterns. And remember those melting glaciers we talked about? They're not just impacting water resources, they're also increasing the risk of glacial lake outburst floods, or GLOFs.
GLOS. I have to admit, that's a new one for me. Can you break that down for our listeners who might be scratching their heads right now?
Of course. Imagine a sudden tsunami triggered when a glacial lake breaches its natural dam. That's essentially what a GLOF is. These are catastrophic events that can wipe out entire villages, posing a significant threat to human life and infrastructure in the region.
That's terrifying. And it underscores how real the impact of climate change is. This is something that could definitely come up in your mains exam, so make sure you understand GLOFs and their connection to the Himalayan region. And speaking of real-world examples, I remember reading about the Joshimath crisis earlier this year. Wasn't that linked to unsustainable infrastructure development?
Exactly. While infrastructure is crucial for a region as remote and challenging as the Himalayas, the problem often lies in the how. Too often, development projects are undertaken without adequate environmental assessments. This leads to deforestation, slope instability, and yes, even land subsidence, like we saw in Joshimath.
So it's about finding that delicate balance. We need development, but not at the cost of environmental destruction that ultimately undermines the very things we're trying to protect.
Precisely. And let's not forget the border tensions we discussed earlier. Those ongoing skirmishes and the need for increased military presence are putting an additional strain on the environment. Plus, increased military spending means less funding for sustainable projects, further straining the delicate ecosystem.
That's an important point. It's not just about direct environmental damage. It's also about how resources are allocated. This could be a good point to bring up in your mains answers, showing you understand the broader economic implications of defense spending. It's a tough situation, no doubt. But surely there are solutions, right? People are working on this, aren't they?
Of course. There are incredibly dedicated individuals and organizations working tirelessly to find solutions and advocate for change. And that's exactly what we'll be diving into in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore potential pathways to a more sustainable and resilient future for the Himalayas, and hopefully give you some ammunition for those main answers on policy recommendations.
Stay tuned then, listeners. We'll be right back with part 2, where we'll be exploring solutions being proposed to tackle these complex challenges facing the Himalayas. Don't go anywhere. All right, ambitious IAS officers in the making, we're back to tackle the big question. How do we solve the Himalayan puzzle?
Right.
We've laid out the challenges like climate change, unsustainable development, that whole security versus sustainability dilemma. But now let's flip the script and get into solutions. What are the experts proposing?
One key takeaway from our sources is the need for a more integrated approach. It's not about tackling individual problems in isolation, but understanding how they're all connected.
So no more Band-Aid solutions, right? We need a more comprehensive strategy, something that addresses the root causes, not just the symptoms.
Exactly. For example, we can't simply halt all infrastructure development, but we can demand stricter environmental assessments, smarter designs, and a shift towards eco-sensitive solutions. Imagine bioengineering to stabilize slopes, climate-resilient road designs, and a greater focus on zero-emission transport in those mountainous towns.
I'm seeing a theme emerge here. It's about minimizing impact, not necessarily eliminating development altogether. That's a nuanced approach that can definitely score you some points in those mains answers. Now let's talk about the tourism dilemma. Millions are drawn to this region, but that very influx is part of the problem. How do we square that circle?
This is where smart tourism comes in. Our sources suggest implementing carrying capacity limits in ecologically fragile areas, so basically setting a cap on the number of tourists allowed in certain zones. They also propose promoting ecotourism models that benefit local communities and, of course, cracking down on waste management. Imagine strict plastic bans, decentralized waste processing systems, a real commitment to preserving the natural beauty that draws visitors in the first place.
Okay, that makes sense. Protect the environment, empower the locals. It's a win-win. But what about the health of those glaciers and rivers? That seems like a monumental task, given the scale of the problem.
One idea gaining traction is a dedicated Himalayan River Basin Management Authority. This would facilitate better coordination on transboundary water issues, ensuring hydropower projects are developed sustainably without upsetting that delicate ecological balance.
Interesting. I can see how regional cooperation would be essential, especially with those glaciers melting at such an alarming rate. Speaking of which, what about the immediate threat of GLOFs? Those seem almost impossible to predict, let alone prevent.
While we can't entirely eliminate the risk, technology can play a vital role in mitigating it. Think real-time data from sensors placed on glaciers, feeding into a system that can alert communities downstream of potential outburst floods. It's about using technology to buy people time to evacuate, to minimize the human cost of these disasters.
That's reassuring to hear. So it's not all doom and gloom. There are concrete steps we can take to protect these communities. Smarter infrastructure, ecotourism, better water management. It's starting to feel like there's a real roadmap for change emerging here. This is all valuable information for our UPSC aspirants. You need to be able to not only identify problems, but also propose feasible solutions.
Absolutely. And remember, effective solutions require a shift in mindset. We need to move away from the exploit and extract mentality that's dominated our relationship with the Himalayas for too long.
And embrace a more sustainable, symbiotic approach, one that recognizes the intrinsic value of this ecosystem, not just its economic potential.
Exactly. Prioritizing the well-being of both the environment and the people who depend on it. That means empowering local communities, promoting sustainable livelihoods like organic farming and eco-friendly crafts, and harnessing the immense potential of renewable energy in these remote areas.
So it's about understanding that we're part of this ecosystem, not separate from it, and that our actions have consequences, both positive and negative.
Precisely. Another crucial aspect our sources highlighted is reforestation and biodiversity conservation. Imagine large-scale initiatives to restore degraded forests with native species, coupled with strict protection of eco-sensitive zones. It's about giving nature the space to heal and thrive once more.
This is all very encouraging, but given the scale of these challenges, it feels like a monumental task. Where do we even begin?
It starts with acknowledging the interconnectedness of these issues. We need to see the Himalayan region as a whole, a complex system with multiple interacting parts. And within that system, we need to identify those leverage points, those interventions that can create a positive ripple effect across the entire region.
Okay, so it's about strategic thinking, finding those high-impact actions that can trigger positive change across the entire system. And that brings us back to the question we posed earlier. What single action could have the most profound positive impact on the entire Himalayan region?
That's the challenge we leave you with, dear listeners, especially those of you prepping for those UPSC exams. What would you propose? Think about the interconnections, the ripple effects, and the potential for creating a sustainable future for this incredible region. Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Absolutely. We want to hear your ideas. What solution do you think could be the game changer for the Himalayas? Let's get a conversation going. And while you're mulling that over, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more UPSC-focused deep dives.
And remember, the insights we've discussed today are drawn from a recent editorial in the Hindu. We encourage you to read the full article and delve deeper into these crucial topics.
Now we've explored the challenges, we've mapped out some potential solutions, but there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to address. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll be examining a thought-provoking question that gets to the heart of what it means to truly understand and protect the Himalayas. Stay tuned for that. Welcome back, aspiring civil servants. We've journeyed through the peaks and valleys of the Himalayan challenge, from strategic importance to melting glaciers, sustainable tourism to reforestation. But now for the final ascent of this deep dive, we're tackling the question we posed earlier. What single action could have the most profound positive impact on the entire Himalayan region?
It's a question that demands we think like policymakers, strategists, and most importantly, stewards of this incredible region.
So no easy answers here. This isn't about quick fixes or silver bullets. It's about understanding the intricate web of connections and finding that leverage point, that one action that can trigger a cascade of positive change.
And remember, there's no single right answer. What we're looking for is a well-reasoned argument, a solution that demonstrates a deep understanding of the complexities involved.
Exactly. This is the kind of thinking that will serve you well, not just in your UPSC exams, but throughout your careers, should you make it to those coveted positions of influence. Now let's consider some possibilities, drawing on everything we've discussed so far.
One compelling argument could be made for focusing on education and awareness, particularly at the grassroots level. If we empower local communities with knowledge about sustainable practices, climate change adaptation, and the value of their natural heritage, that could have a ripple effect across the entire region.
That's a great point. It's about bottom-up change, fostering a sense of ownership and responsibility among the people who live in and depend on the Himalayas. After all, they're the ones who will be most affected by these challenges, and they're also the ones who hold the key to long-term solutions.
Another powerful intervention could be targeted investment in renewable energy and green technologies. Imagine harnessing the immense hydropower potential of the Himalayan rivers, but doing so sustainably with minimal ecological disruption. Or promoting solar power in remote villages, reducing dependence on fossil fuels, and creating new economic opportunities.
Now, that's an idea that ticks multiple boxes. It addresses climate change mitigation, reduces environmental damage, and promotes sustainable development. It's the kind of integrated solution that UPSC examiners love to see.
Absolutely. And don't forget about the potential of technology to improve disaster preparedness and response. We talked about early warning systems for GLOFs, but there's so much more we can do. Imagine using remote sensing and AI to monitor glacier melt, predict landslides, and guide evacuation efforts.
It's about leveraging technology for the greater good, not just for profit or convenience. And speaking of technology, what about using social media and online platforms to raise awareness, mobilize support, and connect people working on these issues?
That's another crucial aspect. Building a strong network of stakeholders, researchers, activists, policymakers, all working together to share knowledge, coordinate efforts, and amplify their impact.
So it's not just about finding the right solutions. It's about getting those solutions into the hands of the people who can implement them and building a movement, creating momentum for change.
Precisely. Ultimately, the most profound action might not be a single policy or technology, but a shift in mindset. A recognition that the Himalayas are not just a resource to be exploited, but a living system that deserves our respect and care.
And that our own well-being is inextricably linked to the health of this fragile ecosystem. It's about understanding that we're all part of this story, and our choices, both individual and collective, will determine the future of this incredible region.
That's a powerful message to end on, and one that's particularly relevant for you, our aspiring civil servants. Remember, the decisions you make in the future will have far-reaching consequences. Study hard, think critically, and never lose sight of the bigger picture.
And don't forget to keep those comments coming. We're eager to hear your thoughts on this crucial question. What single action do you think could have the most positive impact on the Himalayas? Share your ideas, and let's continue this conversation.
And as a reminder, all the insights and analysis we've discussed today are based on a recent editorial in The Hindu. We encourage you to seek out the original article and delve deeper into this important topic.
That's all for today's deep dive, folks. We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit inspiring. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep striving to make a difference.